chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good
this
evening,
show.
Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
image to take advantage of all of those plant sales and stuff. By all means, yeah. So with what's forecasted, we should have a pretty much of a good day. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Yep. Let's turn our attention now to, as we settle in and take a look at the stories that are shaping our islands and, of course, wider region before getting into the substantive discussion today, which again, I welcome each and every one of you to join in with me today. So let me just lower this here for a minute. Don't know what's going on here, but that's a little bit too loud for me. There we go. Yeah, so let's take a look at what's making its round and shaping our news today. Let's go into the headlines. And we always like to start. Sound is back. You hearing me? You guys are hearing me fine? Yeah, I'm hoping everybody's hearing me. Damien was saying sound is back. Okay, there we go. It keeps popping up in the background. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yep. Good. Let's get rolling. Basically making local headlines here in the Cayman Islands. Yesterday, the Cayman Islands Regiment deployed an 8-person team to Jamaica. Thank you so much. To support the recovery efforts following Hurricane Melissa. Now they're working alongside the Royal Bermuda Regiment and the Turks and Caicos Islands Regiment, delivering humanitarian aid in partnership with the Jamaican Defense Force. Now, over the next 2 weeks, the joint overseas territories teams will focus on roof repairs in St. Elizabeth Parish, working with the Guyana Defense Force to help families rebuild. Now, this marks the regiment's first overseas operational deployment, a major milestone that highlights its growing capability and commitment to Caribbean resilience. So congratulations. And, I hope that our crew over there will come back safely. And as we continue to help our brothers and sisters over there recover from Hurricane Melissa. Now, also, as I said, the Cayman Islands is gearing up for this year's annual Agriculture Day taking place this Wednesday, the 18th of February. And this event will showcase local farmers, fresh produce, livestock displays, and family-friendly activities that highlights the importance of Cayman's agriculture community. Now, organizers are reminding Please take note of this. Organizers are reminding the public that no dogs will be allowed on the grounds for safety reasons. And residents are encouraged to come out and support our local growers and to also celebrate the role of agriculture that it plays here and continues to play in our island's sustainability. There we go. Other local news, we know that police have charged a man from West Bay in connection with the fatal stabbing of a 20-year-old Jamal Devontae Watson during a fight in Georgetown early on Friday morning. Now, the suspect, who turned himself in later that evening, is now facing charges of murder, possession of an offensive weapon, and wounding with intent, relating to a second man injured in the same incident. Now, that victim remains in hospital and continues to recover. Let's turn our attention now over to regional news. We know that Barbados Prime Minister Mia Moore-Motley has officially sworn in her new cabinet and parliamentary secretaries this afternoon. The ceremony marks the formal start of her administration, winning all 30 seats for the next term, with several returning ministers and new appointees taking up key portfolios. Now, Prime Minister Motley emphasized continuity, stability, and a renewed focus on national development as the team brings its work. And the new cabinet is expected to move quickly on economic reforms, social programs, and Barbados' ongoing transition to Republican governance. So we'll definitely keep our eyes peeled for that one, don't you think? And guess what is making headlines? Trinidad and Tobago is in full carnival swing as the Twin Island nation celebrates one of the Caribbean's biggest cultural festivals. From nonstop fets to vibrant steel pan performance and costume band launches. Oh my gosh, Port of Spain is alive, and the energy and revelers count down as they count down to this carnival Monday and Tuesday. Well, it's in full swing. I have been following it all weekend, and it's just amazing to see all of the talent and oh gosh, some of those costumes. Oof, they're huge. Now the excitement continues to build leading into this week. And of course, the long and major, highly anticipated international SOCAR Monarch competition, which remains one of the signature highlights of the season. So yes, there you have it. Definitely. I've never been. I know a lot of Caymanians usually go. And from what I'm seeing on TV, oh my gosh, yeah, what I'm streaming on YouTube, it looks like something huge. You definitely need stamina for that. Oh, yeah. Now let's turn our attention internationally as we see authorities across the United States remains focused on the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of TV host Savannah Guthrie. Now, the FBI has released surveillance footage showing a masked individual at her home, and investigators are now analyzing DNA found on a glove connected to the case. The search has entered its second week with growing public pressure and emotional appeals from the family. Now, meanwhile, several states are dealing also, in other news, are also dealing with violent incidents at ice rinks, including a shooting at a Rhode Island arena that drew major police presence earlier today. And other news, we see where if you've been following the 2026 Winter Olympics, Team USA continues to make headlines from advancing in the men's hockey to medal wins in freestyle skating, keeping Americans fans definitely locked in action. And let's turn or wind down our news headlines for today. We want to turn our attention over to the UK because in the UK government has announced a major military move. The UK carrier strike group led by HMS Prince of Wales will deploy across the North Atlantic and Arctic. And this is a part of an Operation Firecrest. Now, this comes amid raising concerns over increased Russian naval activity near UK waters. And in other news, we see where British dual citizens are also being urged to prepare for new travel rules taking effect very soon under the updated electronic travel authorization system. Dual nationals, this is a constant reminder, entering the US without a valid UK passport may be denied boarding by airlines or ferry operators. So we want to make sure that you guys make sure you keep alert with everything that's going on here with this to avoid any disappointments as we head into the Easter holidays, because we know a lot of people actually travel during this time of the year. So we want to make sure that you keep up to date with everything, okay? Now, other news making in the UK is that in the tech space, UK Discord users have learned that they're part of a new data verification experiment involving an identity checking firm linked to Peter Thiel, raising fresh privacy concerns. So if you're over there in the UK, and I know we got our fans, if you use this, you got to be aware of that. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this evening's Sabrina Speaks, news that are making headlines locally and around the world. And it's good to be back with you, as I say. Happy belated birthday to Marshall, and I saw where Miss Romelia also celebrated a birthday. Happy belated birthday to all of you who celebrated over the weekend. I wished you those on Friday as well. And to everyone who's celebrating a birthday today as well. Let's see who's in the house. I always got to make sure that I acknowledge, and definitely show love and appreciation to all of you. Of course, we got to make sure, can't leave you out, Oh no. We got to make sure we pick you up. Connie Bonnie is here. How are you? I see you sending love to Jimbo as well. Hope everybody had a very, very good Valentine's weekend. All the love. It's good to have all of you. Damien is in the house as well. Yes, there we go. It's so good to see and have you all join us here today. Now, I made it a promise to you, right? To all of us that we are going to keep abreast of what's happening. It is a shortened week. I agree. Some people are away. Schools are out. So that's good for all of you who get up early in the morning and have to contend with traffic. But I made it my promise to you that I would be showcasing and keeping it real with all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks as we navigate this space. Any builds that I feel was important for us to actually just be kept up to speed with. And I'm going to hold that promise to you, because for far too often when you hear certain things being debated on the floor of Parliament, I'm hearing that, oh, we didn't know that existed. And there are a lot of things that are passing over our heads. And I don't think a lot of you are aware that these things are happening. So I made it my business to make sure there's one bill that is coming up. And it's not going to be long. It's not going to be boring. I'm hoping that you don't find it boring at all, but that you will take from what I am doing as something that when it is being debated on the floor, you can't say that you never heard about it, because that's where we almost get lost. And I'm going to that bill. I'm going to share the link as well with you. Is called the Mutual Funds Amendment Bill. And you may say, well, why the heck is Sabrina going there? I'm not into mutual funds. You'd be surprised. It all ties in. And you know what? I won't say it. I'll make you figure it out at the end of the day for why it's important that everyone should know what these bill means for our country, whether or not you're in a particular industry. And even though it may sound technical at first, this Mutual Funds Amendment Bill of 2026, it may sound a bit technical, but actually it has real world implications for all of us, whether you work in finance or not. Bottom line, that's what it is. Like I said, it is not a huge amendment bill. And I will actually put the image on the screen. So as I break it down in layman's terms to explain to you what it means and what it signifies, I'm hoping that you'd be able to follow along with me either as we go into this space, or definitely in hindsight at your pleasure, because the live link will be at the bottom of the screen. At any point in time, this is me presenting it in layman's terms as to what our government has out there in public circulation. We know that they're going to Parliament in March. And at the end of the day, your feedback is welcome for all of these things. You saw it in the cabinet summary that I read on Thursday or Friday. So it is really something that I feel that we all should be aware of. And this is why it's important for me. As I learn, I share it with you. And for anyone in the industry who want to participate, break it down, by all means, you're free to call in. I'm not here to speak on behalf of the government. I'm just here delivering in layman's terms as best as I can. So at no point anyone can say they were not aware. As long as I'm aware, I will bring them to you. Okay. So in a nutshell, what this bill, and first let me do this for you all. Let me share the link. I'm going to copy the link and share it with you all. First of all, this is the PDF link that I will be sharing with you all, so that just in case you can just follow along with me. There we go. And you can also Google this and it'll pop right up. But pretty much what the bill actually is all about is it deals with tokenized mutual funds, okay? Which really is just a fancy word for saying mutual funds that use digital tokens instead of paper shares. And again, you may say, here we go again. I don't invest in funds, so why should I care? You should, because here's the thing. The Cayman Islands, one of our major pillars here in the Cayman Islands is that we're built on financial services. And exactly, the Cayman's financial service industry is the heart of our economy. And when the laws that governs it change, it affects our reputation, it affects our jobs, and ultimately our national stability. And this is why I want to break it down in plain language for you, because I took the time to read it. It's not a huge document at all. But in short, what I got from this is that our jurisdiction, the Cayman Islands, is pretty much modernizing its financial laws to keep up with digital finance, right? While still putting investor protection front and center, because we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we remain in good standing internationally and not end up on any lists because we don't have the legislation behind. But I will say, let me repeat it again. This is making sure that we modernize our laws, our legislation to keep up with digital finance. Okay? We can't be left behind. And at the end of the day, at the forefront of what this amendment is actually putting forward is putting investor protection front and center as well. Because if we don't have the necessary guardrails in legislation, then we will not be attractive and we could end up in some problems. Okay. So I've shared the link below and you can follow along, and I will be delivering this in as simple of terms as I can, so that we can all learn in this space together, without the legal jargon, or you may just say, who wants to read that? So it's very short, like I said. Pretty much in the first segment, and I'm going to put it up here, this part of the bill is basically only updating what it actually says. Clause 1 and Clause 2 is basically updating the definitions in the Mutual Funds Act so that the law can actually properly deal with digital tokens. Remember, I explained what that was. And pretty much new types of ownership structures. And what that is that the short title is just simply calling the new law what will be called Mutual Funds Amendment Act. That's a short title. And you can see that there as number 1. And then number 2 is updating the definition section, okay, for what it means as it pertains to this particular law, this piece of legislation. And what this piece of legislation, this bill as it is right now, is that the law changes the definition sections and renames interpretations. But the real purpose is to update and expand the meanings of certain terms. So you may ask then, what's being updated? Debt. Debt. The definition now includes local company, LCCL interest. LCCL's interest, not just the shares, okay? And this reflects the fact that funds, any monies used today is different legal structure and not only companies, okay? Another one that is changed under subsection B is equity interests. And what this is now defined as is also expanding to include LLC interest, not just share. So in layman's terms and simple terms, what the law is now doing is that it is now recognizing that investors may own part of a fund through different types of legal entities. There are also some new definitions that were added as well to this bill, and several new terms to keep up with the modern financial technology so that the bill won't be saying anything and it's misinterpreted for legal reasons. So it's very critical that you get certain definitions in any piece of legislation. And one of those is digital equity token. And what that is it is a digital version, like I said at the opening, of a share. And basically, your ownership is fund represented electronically instead of a piece of paper. Okay. And then the LLC interest is your ownership in a limited liability company. And that limited liability company is as defined in the Legal Liability Company Act, a separate law. So you see where they see where one piece of legislation could affect another one. They're actually aligning here. Okay. Now, your ownership in a limited liability company, as defined under that LLC Act, and the principal interest, which is another one here under the LCC Act, is that your ownership in a partnership, including your shares, your profits, and your voting rights or obligations. And at the very end, the definition of tokenized mutual funds, and the definition of that is a mutual fund where any of the ownership interests are represented by digital tokens. So let me put that in plain English, because I don't want to say something that is not written in law. What this section of the bill is doing in plain English is that, again, it's modernizing the law so it can properly regulate digital ownership, tokenized funds, new business structures like LLCs, and partnership. And what it does then is that it ensures the law reflects how the financial industry actually works today, and especially with the rise of digital assets. So you see where we're making sure that not only having the right infrastructure where that cable, subsea cable for making sure connectivity and download and upload speeds are up. Now we're actually building the legislative framework around exactly this type of business. Hoping you're following me thus far. You're also seeing here in this screen, Section 3, and it say amendments of Section 16 license mutual fund administrators to be specified in a specific respect of mutual funds. Now, what this part of the law actually is explaining is that what license mutual fund administrators must check when they are overseeing tokenized mutual funds. And what that means is that a fund that uses digital tokens, remember we're getting rid of all this paper and everything is tokenized. And that is what it's doing. It uses these digital tokens to represent investor ownership. And what does that mean in everyday language? Simple. That Section 16 of the law is being used to update and add new responsibilities for administrators when they're actually dealing with tokenized mutual funds, because you see the landscape is now changing. It's not just paper, it is digital, okay? And the goal of this is to make sure that digital token records are safe, that they're also accurate, and they're available to the regulator. And the new requirements under this section as well is that administrators must now ensure two major things. One of those is that digital token records must be secured and accessible, and that they must confirm that when funds keeps all records related to digital tokens, like the creation, the issuance, the sales and transfer, and the ownership, And what this actually does as well is that these records must be securely stored and available to SEMA or anyone that SEMA assigns with whatever time frame SEMA sets. So what that is saying, my friends, is that the fund must be kept in its digital records, just like how you would do, I guess, like files, like paper files. The fund must be kept in digital records in a safe place and also be able to hand them over quickly when the regulator or should a regulator acts for them. Yeah. So you can see where we're headed, whether or not you are actually ready for it. It's actually happening. So as we look onto it, we look at the tokenized fund rules, right? And when you look at this, hi, Shaka Zulu, so good to have you in. Belated birthday greetings to you, Marshall. And Shaka Zulu's in the house. Yeah. Trying to take on this mutual funds. Hope you're catching up with us. In layman's terms. So let's look at the fund must follow these rules, right? And the requirements for these funds as well, because this is also very important that we actually look at those at that part. And what I do have up on the screen is the supervisory powers of the authority in layman's terms. And pretty much what this section 4 says is that it is explaining that SEMA, the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, is allowed to do and make sure that tokenized funds are following the law and protecting investors. Okay? That's pretty much what that is saying. Because SEMA has the power to actively supervise and inspect these tokenized mutual funds, whether or not you understand them or not. You got to make sure that the lines are not blurred with what the responsibilities are because they're taking on a different format, right? And SEMA's job is to make sure that these digital tokened funds are following all the rules in the law and that it's also keeping investors safe and using secure and reliable technology. And in order for SEMA to do that, SEMA can inspect or expect two key things that is covered under this. SEMA can look at any underlying technology and fund uses and what they can, as an example, SEMA can look at the digital platform. This can also include the blockchain or database. And you've heard us talk about these things here before. And the systems that store and track digital tokens. Because this ensures that the technology, 1, is safe, 2, secure, and 3, functioning properly. So you see where there are other legislations that, even though this part of the bill is addressing one thing, making terminology and access legal in a digital format, there are other rules that actually will govern under this that makes this bill actually could impact other legislations as well. Because SEMA, Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, can also inspect any transactions. You hear? SEMA itself can also inspect any transactions involving digital equity tokens. And these tokens are like how tokens are created, how they're transferred, and how ownership is even recorded. Okay? Because this helps prevent fraud, any mistakes, any errors, or misuse of digital assets. So, in plain language, SEMA isn't just watching from a distance. It has the authority to go in and check the technology, review the digital records, and even make sure that everything is being done properly, because this, my friends, protects investors and keeps Cayman's financial system strong as it moves into the digital era. So if you're thinking that we're not heading there, you've got another guest coming. It is clear as crystal where we're headed, okay? And it's only like 10 pages long, this piece of document. So whether or not you're in the system at all, or you're into this industry, this is coming. And I didn't want this to be another bill or something that's debated on the floor of Parliament and you all tune out because one, you don't understand it, or you're like, that enough for me. It's actually for all of us. And this is why it was important for me to break it down as best as I can in layman's terms, because of exactly what it means for all of us here at home. And many of us are looking at other, or possibly could be looking at other job opportunities. Look at the industry that is being created with all of this and coding, and understand that. And it's really for my young people, my young men and women who are out there that are possibly trying to find a job or to choosing their subjects and that sort of stuff, and not so sure. Look at all of the creations of jobs and opportunities that could actually be yielded from this, because there are some pros to this. There are some pros and cons of stuff like this. Yes. Hey, Andrew, it's so good. It's so good to have you. Hence the EID. That's only an element. I'm quite one element of it to make, but look at what it's doing to the financial industry as we prepare to go into this digital era that is impacting everyone around the world. Because whether or not you're into the digital platform, or the EID is a total different subject almost. To be honest with you, this bill isn't waiting on you to decide whether or not you are going to get your EID or not. Because guess what? Obviously, our country must continue to run. Obviously, there's still a demand in our society for persons wanting to do business with us. And we see where the risks, we're seeing where there's an appetite of doing things more from a digital footprint standpoint. And because financial services is a major pillar of Cayman's income, in order for us to not be blacklisted, to have investment security, to show where we are modernized and we have the latest technology for pace, productivity, but the most important thing, strong legislation that people can say, wow, the Cayman Islands really have their ducks in a row. And look at how far they are advanced, not only in infrastructure, services that are available, but their digital footprint is coming up to speed. And whether or not you are prepared, I can tell you this, like I said just now, they ain't got no time to wait for you to decide whether or not you want an ID. They're going. And this is why it's important for us to understand the type of laws that are being presented. It is in the public's domain, and you have a right to respond. You may say, well, what's the sense? This is already a bill. No, don't look at it like that. Look at it from a whole piece of the pie, with or without it. Let me give you some pros about it. Some of the good news, and I stand to be corrected because there may be other people that are saying, we don't have to follow suit. We don't have to do this. You're entitled to your opinion. And if you want to weigh in on this conversation, please feel free to call in. 345-936-8255 is the number to call. We're talking about the Cayman Mutual Funds Amendment Bill 2026. Let's start with some of the good news. This bill, really, as a pro of this, helps us keep up with modern technology. And I've pretty much said that over and over again thus far. Because we see where the world is moving towards digital assets. And there is a fact that if we don't update our laws, we get left behind, number one. And by regulating digital tokens properly, we protect our reputation as a serious, well-regulated financial center. That gives you respect internationally. We're not just looking here within the 345. We're looking global. Okay? And another advantage of this and bills like this is that it also strengthens investor protection. Because don't you think people aren't looking? And they're not just looking at Sun, Sea, and Fun or these big names, the big fives, the big six, the big whatever. They're also, if they're smart, they would be looking at what legislative framework that any jurisdiction has in place, how current they are, how often they're amended and updated in order to make the decision to say, the Cayman Islands is the place that I want to conduct my business in. Okay? So with amendments of legislations like this as being presented, it strengthens investor protections. And the bill requires then added protection that requires funds to be kept secured in a digital stance. And it explains the risks clearly. It's clear. And follow strict rules that are set by the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority. And that means that there are fewer chances for fraud, fewer chances for mistakes, and fewer chances for shady behavior. Please bear in mind that all legislation is not in stone, and should things and times and environment change, you go back and you mend them accordingly. And that is why at this critical juncture and where we're seeing the digital footprint is going, that our islands realize, okay, fine, we need to get up to times. We need to update our legislation because right now we're exposed. And our leaders and industry stakeholders and those who are guiding our leaders are saying, look, let's get ahead of this. We have seen where our very own premier and ministers of financial services and finance as well has taken trips. And they see what's happening. And I'm quite sure they have engaged with leaders and so forth. And smart enough, they're aligning themselves accordingly. And now have come back home and obviously work in progress. They're seeing what's happening and they're making the necessary amendments to the local legislations that is here that will posture the Cayman Islands to be and maintain good standing in the financial industry. So those are some of the thumbs up for why you would want to do that. Okay. And finally, what this bill does is that, as another pro for us, is that it gives SEMA the power to inspect the technology behind these digital tokens as well. And that's important because if the techs fail, guess what? Investors will lose money. And Cayman, our jurisdiction then, our name gets dragged through the mud. So you must understand the key role and modernization of even SEMA and the necessary skill sets that they need in order to have persons working in SEMA that they would be able to know these tokenization, be on point with compliance and even IT and so much more, that I can see that eventually here with all of these responsibilities becoming a standalone department outright in SEMA. Persons who are accustomed to just dealing with the paper version, I'm quite sure that they're ahead of the game. And if their staff is actually proactive, they would be doing some online courses so that they're more embracing of the future and where more tokenizations more than likely will be relevant and the actual hands-on paper will be less and less. So this is continued development in a particular industry that is not only limited to that industry, that people are going to have to invest in themselves, keep up with the change in times. And this is not to have any fear or to cast any fear on anybody who's in the financial industry. This is just real talk, that you need to be aware of what's happening in your surroundings, what's happening in your industry, so that your bottom line is that you don't get left behind. And being ahead of it, you're seeing where legislation is coming in. I am breaking it down in layman's terms as best as I can. If you are one of those who are working in these industries and seeing legislations like coming up like this, and you're stuck into, that's only talk, that's not going to come to play, you better invest in yourself. And I'm hoping then that human resources, whose job and task have changed and continues to evolve in this space, that you would also offer refresher courses and training opportunities to make sure that you continue to invest in your staff, identify those staff as well who invest in themselves as they themselves keep up to the time. And not only that, if a lot of them take their own initiative and do it on their own, that they will be compensated accordingly. Because sometimes, it actually takes a little while for approval to be given. And some people say, look, I want to better myself. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to do this. Will you give me permission? I will actually fund it myself. And should I be successful, at least and pass, and they can present, and you do your background checks, I guess, to make sure it's legit. Recognize them for investing in themselves. Because I can assure you, even though this bill is going down one angle, this is going to be the case throughout a lot of other industries. And I don't want anyone to be fearful of where the future is and put an age limit to it. And I'll just share a little story with you. I was petrified in taking the space because I'd never dealt with anything, AI tools and all that sort of stuff. And I realized I had some time on my hands and I invested in myself, and I'm doing courses, AI technology, and you do it 20 minutes, 15 minutes a day, and you expose yourself to different platforms that assists me to, one, be comfortable and to keep me competitive in the event that I'm faced with opportunities. I can hold conversations that is relevant, and it will blow your mind how easy it is after you get the fundamentals. So I don't want anybody to be scared, because I was. You guys who have been with me and you've stayed with me from day one of taking on this podcast will know I was petrified. of just technology, because I was accustomed to having people around me that did this and did that. Now your girl is posting on here, posting on there. And that was something less than 6 months ago that I was never doing, that I was just scared to do it. I just didn't want to mess up. I can assure you, you're going to need that. And it's not too late to make a start. And once you get into it and you continuously do it, it comes like that. It comes like that. I'm a little bit more comfortable, still a lot of work, but I continuously invest in myself. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of reading, and it helps. It helps not only in this space, but it builds me up for coming in the future as well. Andrew said, in China, you do not have to carry money. They have WeChat, and your palm of your hand is used to access all services. Oh, because I guess that's your fingerprinting. That's in a central database, I'm quite sure. Well, in the UK, pretty much they don't even take cash anymore. It's useless for you going to the UK and taking pounds, British pounds. You're going to end up coming back with them because everything is on your phone. And that's where I guess people are fearful of being caught into the cashless society. So to be honest with you, it is where we're headed. The palm thing, I'm quite sure, is picking up. Everything is linked. And I don't know how it works, but that's interesting. So we should be setting the stage for our schools to have training in AI for virtual currency. Let me tell you something. This is not only limited to the schools. This should also be offered into our seniors. It should be rolled out in our community so that everybody has the opportunity to not feel any less. And I am delivering this here because for far too often we disassociate ourselves because for whatever reason we're feeling we're not in the financial industry. I don't need to know. Your leaders will be presenting this bill at some point on the floor of Parliament, and some of them will do their homework and they will have questions. They may have concerns, and it's up to them to really educate you. I'm doing this as a promise because as I learn, I teach you. Right? But PR around things like this is important, whether or not you're in the industry. And I feel that the amount of attention that is given or was given on immigration, any bill, no matter what, should be given the same attention. Now, you may say, well, that wasn't the big talk. That wasn't the big talk. Why should we do this? Like I said at the beginning, this is tokenized. This is setting legal framework in our jurisdiction that will govern how investors come here. At the end of the day, there's a cost of service providers that goes into the coffers of central government that hoping some of those monies will help fund roads, schools, pay for medical, pay for indigent and all that. Why you think those same indigents don't need to know about this piece of legislation so that they know it's all tied in at the end of the day? When certain things are being debated and you have certain voices that are coming out loudly and it's coming from an uninformed perspective is why every piece of legislation, every bill should be given the same amount of PR. Do not dilute. Any audience on any platform would be my advice because you would be surprised who is listening. Not only locally, but also internationally. And this is why, once I'm aware, I will do my best to deliver it in layman's terms so that there's no reason why any man should be left behind. And based on the feedback and based on some of the commentary that we're receiving here when certain utterances are made about what laws are in place, what laws are still on the shelf, what laws needed to be modernized but was never enacted, many of you are taken by surprise. Again, because you weren't following along. So no, you can't ask the questions. But that's not only a failing on us as members of civil society. That is a national failure as well, because no person should be left behind. And the same emphasis should be placed on all bills, whether or not you have 2 persons or you have 502 persons, whether or not you get 1 comment, 1 suggestion, 1 query, or you get 301 questions, comments, or queries. You need to be satisfied that your nation, your people are always included. And I'm feeling that not all the time, they may make the headlines, but they're not broken down. It's not to say people are going to come at you, that there's going to indirect, oh, we don't want this because this is the mark of the beast. We don't want, no. People are entitled to their opinions, but we have a duty to make sure that information is put into the public's domain, highlighted, explored, explained, so that everyone can understand. And that is where we're losing the plot. Damien Henry, still 50-50 in UK. Oh, cash and electronic. Okay. Denver, hey, how you doing? Denver says, I couldn't use cash or credit card in China 8 years ago. I couldn't use cash or credit card in China 8 years ago. That was shopping. What do you use then? Tell me what you use. Andrew, everyone will be affected, as you so rightly stated, as our banking system is restructured. That too. You're seeing certain things right now that are happening right before our eyes, with limited hours now shortened, and you are now tasked with dealing with the ATM that once upon a time you only went to the ATM pretty much to withdraw cash, some deposit. And now pretty much everyone is encouraged to do online banking, that you can do electronic funds transfer. You can request, if you still use checks, checkbooks, you can do so much on your online platform. But now you're really having limited interactions with a human going into a bank. And that is exactly where we're heading at the end of the day. Not to say that they don't exist. And at some point you have to go in, or you will be going in to deal with, but the interactions, the direct interactions that we have all become so accustomed to, is fading. And here we go again, just like what this bill is saying, tokenized, meaning it's replacing paper and now doing digital. But it's the fancy words that is really messing with some of our brains. It is. Denver says, large manufacturing facilities visited, accepted cash. Oh, okay. Accepted cash in US currency. Interesting. Very interesting. And that was 8 years ago. Can you imagine what has changed now? Wake up, Cayman Islands. Cash is still king here in the UK. The people stood up for it. And if you win money in the lotto, they give you it in cash. Cash or card are options. Total cashless, naga happen. Okay, let's see. Thank you for giving us that as well, keeping us up to speed. We will watch where that goes, because we do see, though, Wake Up Cayman, where you have those who are for it and those who are definitely against it. And you're seeing more now where persons are actually, I wouldn't say more embracing, but more, you tolerate it, because you're seeing where the environment is pretty much dictating or pushing us into the way of using less cash. Oh, we prefer the card. Do you have a debit card? Do you have a credit card? That sort of stuff. I saw headlines the other day. I think it was out of New York, where a camera captured the image of a young man coming out or running from like a basement. And I digress for a little bit. And apparently, when the media caught up or authorities caught up with the gentleman, he was actually kidnapped because he was somebody who manages Bitcoin. Yeah. And he knew how to actually, like, he was one of those portfolio holders or whatever. I stand to be corrected. But he became high stakes because he knew how to work the machinery. Young fella. He was not 28. He wasn't 30. He was young man. But he was well sought after because of how he manages those portfolios. And of course, there were just certain codes, just certain things that these people would know. And he managed to get away. I need to follow up on that story to see what happens. But do you understand how valuable what you got between your ears are going to be if you master this thing of technology, computers, coding, and all that sort of stuff? If you master it, can you imagine how powerful you can be? So it's the pros and the cons of everything as we continue to evolve in this space and just navigate life. Some will say, Father God, come quick. How much more of this can we take? And others are like, yes, finally, I can work. Don't have to work as hard. A machine will do everything. I see where it's the beginning of Chinese New Year's is it China? I noticed it. And there were some guys doing some acrobatic flips, and they were actually doing or performing with robots. And you should see these robots that were mimicking all of these flips and jumps and twirls. This was outright. Check it out after this podcast for yourself, because it marks the beginning of Chinese New Year. And this was all of this a part of the celebration. And these robots, at first, I thought it was someone in a robot costume. When I realized that there was a young man who were doing all these flips and all this sort of stuff. And then you see this thing going across the stage and standing up and maintaining its balance and all this sort of stuff. He was actually doing a routine with robots. And if you saw how flexible they were, how light they were in the air, and you're like, oh my gosh. Yeah, check it out if you don't believe me. Chinese New Year, robots doing flips or something. You can just do keywords, search it. And I literally froze and says, what are we coming to? Literally. Yeah. And what did I do? Moving right along. Denver said, but at convenience stores, no cash or credit cards. Interesting. Yeah. E-government, Andrew says, in Cayman Islands already implement where most all services are online, example, police records, car license, etc. Yeah, good. Thank you, Andrew, for bringing that up. How many of you actually appreciate being able now, should you require a police record, and I'm speaking to everyone who may need a police record and driver's license, that they appreciate the services that are offered online? Remember the days of you going to Eric corrected me, I keep saying the DMV, the Department of Vehicle Licensing Services. And you were there for hours sometimes, in a line, sitting down, playing musical chairs almost. And now they have an integrated system where they remind you, because remember, we no longer have those round license things that you put on your windows, on your windscreen, that tells you when your driver's license for your car, your license for your car expires. You depend on them to tell you that, right? And you can actually renew it unless it needs inspecting online, anywhere. You could be on sandbar. You could be on your back patio. You could be in your hammock, and you could renew your vehicle license. How many of you don't appreciate that? Likewise with police records. How many of you can honestly say you do not appreciate not having to leave your office, not having to leave your home, and you can do all of these services and still get through? Remember the days of long lines and processes, if you could recall ever having to deal with, let's say, immigration, for example, and even customs. Efficient services, that's where we're headed. And all of those are now taking on electronic footprints to make efficiency in services faster. And it all ties in to exactly what this Cayman Mutual Funds Amendment Bill is purporting or proposing. But there are some cons that I actually found out as I was preparing for this show. On the flip side of this, there may be some challenges, okay? Because digital finance is still very new. Small island development states, we're seeing where other jurisdictions regionally are actually struggling with, like what we rightfully say, EID. It has made the headlines here that it has been a slow uptick. There's been a slow uptake of it here in the Cayman Islands, even though it's only rolled out in its first phase to Caymanians alone. And the only reason why I'm not flaunting mine, right, because I done left home, but I'm getting mine. Just for the record, I'm coming. I'm going to deliberately do it. Well, you know what? I'll make the request. I'll fill out the form to do all the online application, and then maybe Thursday or Friday, go and pick it up. That's the aim. That's the plan. But there are some challenges because right here, we admit that it's still new and not everyone fully understands it. And that means that there will be a learning curve. Like I rightfully said, anybody who's in the industry and this law is happening, don't feel as though, oh my God, I could lose my job. I'm not going to be a valuable asset anymore to the organization. You owe it to yourself, and so does your organization owe it to you. So you shouldn't feel that way. But I would say it's a 50-50 thing. You and your organization that you work, so that you're not feeling like that or that you're not panicking. Because also for regulators and for administrators and even for investors, that they're seeing the landscape is changing. So there are risks that smaller operators themselves may also struggle with the cost of meeting these new requirements as well, remaining competitive, making sure that they too have the infrastructure in place to keep up with the demand and where technology is going. And we can all admit that technology isn't cheap. And we know that compliance in itself takes time and expertise as well. So with everything, there will always be the concern. And only one person come back to mind here. Loud. Denny. There's always the concern about cyber security. And you heard a part of the headlines, what I said about an experiment that's happening in the UK with one particular platform. Yes. And even with strong rules, no system is 100% risk-free. Now you may say, well, why go there? Paper ain't risk-free either. Paper isn't risk-free either. That is why it is broad. Even with strong rules, no system is 100% risk-free. There's a risk in everything in life. And there's a risk with paper. There's a risk with everything. But it is a step in modernizing where we're going, and we continue to build, evolve, put the necessary, hope we don't become a victim. And you do everything within your power to make sure that you put the necessary legal framework and guardrails up that based on the now, always looking to the future, that you continue to modernize. Isn't that how we learn? Isn't that how we grow? If we don't make a step, then how are we supposed to advance? How are we supposed to improve? And no one's perfect, just like this. No system is 100% risk free, but it is a step in the right direction. Adaptation to a new system is the biggest challenge. As the saying goes, you can't train a dog old dog new tricks. I'm an old dog. No, man. You're only that's age is just a number. It's just your mindset, Andrew, to be honest. And I have had conversations with I sat down the other day. Hold on now. I sat down the other day and I was speaking with my aunt. We were catching up. And you should hear her now. She's on social media platforms and she's commenting and all this sort of stuff. And I didn't say anything to her, and she's probably listening, or she'll probably hear it. I didn't say anything to her, but I was watching her because we were in deep conversation. Then I saw she got quiet and she was down on her phone and she's there scrolling and she's doing to this and she's going to that and she's sending me links. And I'm thinking back, a few months or even a year or two ago, you couldn't get her to do that. And now you can barely keep her attention. And Andrew, I say that because you only have to take that first step. No one has to be an expert at anything. But each day, as you use these platforms, you become more and more comfortable. I've got friends who are saying they will not go into the EID. I respect them. Some of them, they don't even want to they don't want to hear it. They are just, I'm going to stay as I am. You got to leave them. In time, as we continue to educate, as we continue to uplift and show different things, maybe they may warm up. Maybe they may warm up. And for the ease of doing business, some of them may have no other choice. But I'm not going to be the one to go and be rude to anyone to say, oh, no, you're an idiot. You need to get this. Oh, no. That is not the approach. Each person may even have to come back and ask multiple questions. They may have to come and ask you questions in a scenario form that's more personalized to them because that's how they process it. They will weigh the odds. They will weigh the risks. They will look at their current situation, how it may or may not impact them, how it may or may not make it harder or easier for them to exist. And based on those things, they may make a decision. Some may actually be caught in a position that they're like, holy crap, really? If I had gotten it, maybe things would be easier. I don't know, but to each his own. I just feel right now, because this is new, and even in all the research, we have experts who are top of their field are having challenges. And they're not going to say that some of them are not fearful at the pace in which we are modernizing with technology, that those who are even top-notch CEOs are hiring persons to keep them relevant because they are catching up themselves. And for them to remain relevant, for them to remain competitive in the space, they're identifying early, hey, if we want to keep in this race, we got to implement certain systems, have to update our databases, we have to make sure that our policies aligns with this, that, whatever, but they don't get stuck. They're amenable to conforming to the environment in order to, one, remain competitive. And that is exactly what I see this bill is trying to do. Now, whether or not there are going to be more amendments to come, of course, plenty more to come. Whether or not there are going to be other laws that are going to be updated, sure, many more. This is just a tip of the iceberg. Not to fear anyone, But this is just this chapter of the Cayman Islands remaining competitive, making sure we're doing what we can in the financial space and making sure that we're preparing our jurisdiction to remain competitive, because if we lose that income, that standing globally, your quality of life, the level of lifestyle that we now enjoy and boast will definitely change. So you got to weigh it. What do you want? But the key is open dialogue, making sure no one is left behind when legislation and bills are put forward, giving everyone that courtesy and respect to hear it out. And don't let anyone feel any less, because one, they're not in the industry, their net worth isn't a certain amount, or well, that percentage is that doesn't matter. Oh, really? No. Where we're heading, and especially as a small island jurisdiction, everyone matters, because this is our financial industry, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. And if you think that doesn't play into this market, you got another guest coming. Denver says it's good for the elder's brain. Yes, we need to work through our church groups. We need to work through, as I said, all of the education systems, all age groups, introducing certain things at different levels, even though some of those younger kids are more even advanced than some of their parents, because it's like they born knowing how to scroll. And but I feel the biggest disadvantage will be those of our seniors or elders, because we have to play catch up with them. And we owe it to the people, each elected representative, each nonprofit organization, owe it to our society. It just makes these processes, having discussions and communications, platforms such as this, so much easier when you have an educated and informed society at all levels, class, and creed. And do not take any sector or any class of individuals for granted. Because I can assure you, you got your big fives up there, you got your big fives down here too. You got them regulated, semi-regulated, unregulated, but you ain't running no machinery as bad as all the others. So please, I am appealing, and the persons know who I'm talking about, who I'm talking to. Don't you take any sector of society for granted, because they all need to know what this means. Okay? CE Banks, good evening to you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Always good to see you and have you join us. Old regular boy. Good to have you. Andrew says, back in the day, our elders used to congregate on their porch verandas and discuss the events, politics happening around them. And now they're on social media platforms and going to have to get crypto. You know what? You'd be surprised how much some of them, I'm aware of some that are actually in their 80s and 90s who are actually sending WhatsApp messages. I was communicating with a number of them. You'd be surprised. No, they're limited, I must agree. But the mere fact that they were embracing, and on Facebook too, they're on Facebook too. And I applaud them for embracing it. But this goes back, Andrew, to what I'm saying. No one should be left behind. No one should feel left out. And like I said, for a piece of amendment like this and a bill so short, why haven't we seen or heard a lot more about it than we are? Or is it only being whispered in the industry stakeholders, not realizing that it will have implications some way, somehow later down? There's a downstream effect that Everybody benefits and will be affected directly or indirectly anyhow. You ever forget where your eyeglasses? Oh, all the time. And only to realize they're on your head, on my face. I'm looking for them and they're on. I'm looking for them, Andrew, and they're on. Eric asked me yesterday, do you have to cook in your glasses? I kind of gave him the side eye. I gave him the side eye. Look here, the numbers are coming up and I just feel more comfortable in them. I see better. Yeah. I know she my game. Denver says, after some reserve, we could be a Bitcoin capital just like the hedge funds. How you know that's not where we're aligning ourselves to go? You see, Denver, how you popping out some of these things, which is why it is imperative that we continue to evolve and educate ourselves, because you hear all these hedge funds, all of these companies that are here. Yeah, in order to remain a competitive force that we have made ourselves regionally so famous for, is why. Denver, you're onto it. After some, yes, just like hedge funds. Oh, you hit that more than once, my friend. Andrew says, there are benefits in some situations that will be challenging because they're elderly with, dementia and have to trust someone. Yeah, I get that. But what I'm saying is that, like, you may actually think that having this conversation with an 80, 90-year-old right now is neither here nor there. You don't know what their former lives were, that they were not into accounting, or they didn't own multiple businesses. And now their kids and grandkids are actually running their estates and their portfolios for them. They may not necessarily be day-to-day active or involved in those businesses, for example, if that is the case, just for a scenario. But they would still be in their right faculties. May his soul rest in peace. The grandfather of the judiciary, Mr. Alberga. That man was way up and he was still there in the courts for all of these openings. And he was still going to the office until, he couldn't no longer go. And you think that man wasn't up to speed with the legislation? It's no different when it comes to making sure, and I go back to what I said, once you have an informed and educated civil society who are always in the know and feel inclusive, feel a part of everything, you have more successes. If they feel that they're being pigeonholed, segregated, pushed to the side, marginalized, you are going to get pushback. Some way, somehow. And a lot of the times it is because of the lack of understanding and education without proper context, why a lot of the pushback in some commentary is stated, and then it almost gives a branding of your people. Be careful with them. They're not to write it. Really? You should be shaming yourself. Worse if you're making those utterances as a leader. That means you have failed. You have failed. And this is why no one should be taken for granted. No one should be taken for granted. Everyone has their purpose and value when it comes to legislation that governs a country. Tartarian. What people don't realize is that AI been with them all their lives. A calculator is AI. Tartarian, well said. As simple as you take it. And then remember the scientific one came in. Remember the scientific one came in. I remember the brother word processor that used to come in with the ... And then it bloomed into these different things. Look at the phones. Remember the fridge? And look at where we've evolved to. You got phones that I have seen almost the size of a cigarette lighter. Exactly. Tartarian, you're quite right. It has always been there. Andrew says, transparency and due diligence for all banking systems will be much easier, will be met much easier. Yeah, but you have to make sure that the systems that are in place are one, regulated, operated at a certain standard, and can always be accessible by SEMA should they have to need information. And that is what is the big takeaway about this bill. And I feel that with these putting in, it actually not draw the line in the sand, but makes it clear for all of these regulators, all of these persons who are engaging in this type of business, where SEMA's role and responsibilities come in as well. Because you don't want somebody who is out there in the business that pretty much, as a regulator, say, scuff SEMA either. Well, hold on. This is my information. Everyone must be made aware and clear of what SEMA's purpose is. And again, this law sets it out, and it clearly outlines what their duties, their functions, how they respond, what they respond to, and all of that sort of stuff, so that there's no misunderstanding of what their roles are, and it's mutually understood and it's clear. So there are no blurred lines, so to speak. And so you got the requirements, you know what each person's roles are for, and it clearly outlines exactly about the administrators and their licensed mutual administrators to be specified with in respect of the mutual funds industry and all that sort of stuff. So it is clear what is the intent and purpose of this piece of legislation. And I'm hoping that for those of you who may have joined us late, I shared the link below so that you can actually read this Mutual Funds Amendment Bill 2026 in itself, that pretty much outlines in this amendment that it's for an act to amend this law, the Act of 2025 revision, to provide for specific requirements for tokenized mutual funds, to provide definitions for digital equity token and tokenized mutual fund, and for incidental and connected purposes. And what I did do is I went through each section and broke it down, what each section really means and what the bill in layman's terms. I've also taken the liberty of sharing with you what I thought some of the pros and cons could be. Of course, could go deeper. Someone could probably rip that apart now and say even much more about it. But that is just a pretty much overall synopsis of what this bill means. And it's really so short in form, it doesn't exceed 10 pages. It doesn't exceed 10 pages. So it's an easy read for you to read yourself, try and digest on your own time. And hey, at least when you hear this being discussed on the floor of Parliament, it's not foreign to you like it's your first time hearing it. Denver says this will be done much easier than our government is making the laws and running the country. Well, this is a law, though. This will be done much easier than our government is making laws. This is a law. And the government, this was passed in cabinet, and it's now out for public consultation. So meaning that you will probably have bipartisan agreements for it on the floor of Parliament. I can see where you're going with that, which is why, Denver, I said, why isn't this bill so heavily talked about as we heard? Because it's almost like silence now with the immigration amendment and the regulations there. But why isn't there much more around this? Is all I'm saying. We should have heard this. And who to tell, Denver? Look at the flip side of this. With this legislation and this amendment to this bill, it could yield to more persons, like I said, being attractive to do financial services here in the Cayman Islands. Denver, look at the spinoff of that. If we attract more businesses because this amendment has been modernized and we accepting tokenization, we see where the fiber, the cable, the subsea cable now is also in discussions and We got other people trying to bid to do it. And people are seeing that the Cayman Islands is aligning ourselves, posturing ourselves to have all of these things in play. And they're like, hey, I'm going to keep my eye on the Cayman Islands. I'm going to do business there. And let's say everything works. This is passed. You could get a number of additional persons wanting to do business here. And these things are not cheap. That's more monies into financial services that in turn then are fees and services that are charged by our government that goes into the central government coffers. There are fees for all of these businesses who are actually offering these services that also goes up because then there's a demand for persons seeing Cayman as a jurisdiction of choice because of all of these amendments. There's a spin-off from this. There is a positive spin-off from this. And I feel because maybe we're not in the space, which is why I'm highlighting this bill, that it would have been something you've taken for granted. But there are some positive spin-offs from the financial sector that everyone will actually benefit from because it's all revenue making for the government. The more persons that come here and do business with us, the financial industry can say that, they can tell you that themselves. So I'm quite sure if you speak to somebody in SEMA, somebody in the financial industry that actually deals with this sort of stuff, they will actually probably tell you there are a lot more pros than there are cons of modernizing this piece of legislation to align with tokenization. Wake up, Cayman. That's true. Cartoons are also AI, and those arcade games like Pac-Man and so on, they're all AI. Yep. Yet it has been here a long time. Yeah. Shaka Zulu, modernization of the Cayman banking system is all and well necessary. However, what about the trend of more and more Caymanians, locals alike, becoming unbanked? And no one seems to be addressing that, meaning they are losing their jobs because of closing down of departments, because of what? Downsizing, outsourcing. Tell me, Shaka Zulu, give me some more. Give me some more. Give me a little bit more. Denver says, I don't want to assume. That's why. Denver, that's why our financial laws must be totally transparent and to the big wigs in our financial industry, which is why, Denver, I'm bringing this. Because did you know this was out there? Even though I reported it in the cabinet summary, did you know? I bet you didn't. But those who are in the industry knew about it. And they're probably waiting. You probably have people overseas right now that are probably waiting for this bill to be approved or made into law and then pretty much commenced for them to decide, yes, I'm going to do business in the Cayman Islands. Or some are based on our proven track record. This may be a selling point for them. And all of these service providers are saying, hey, we have something that's right now in public consultation for the people of the Cayman Islands to weigh in to know that this is the direction that we're going in, coupled with theirs a subsea cable and our internet connectivity. You can be anywhere in the world. And, once this goes through, yada, 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 it's all a pitch. But look, at the end of the day, they're spinoffs from this to help our people at the end of the day. So you never know what could be the spinoff of that. I'm not taking it from one side or the other. I'm just letting you know what the bill is saying. You be the judge of that in your own time. This opportunity should be only for Cayman. This opportunity should be only for Caymanian people. No work permits. For what? What are you talking about, Andrew? What opportunity? Not totally, however. Much is shared with me via man of wisdom and knowledge. Okay. Like I said, I respect. And that's why our financial laws must be totally transparent and to the big wigs on our financial industry. Not totally, however, much is shared with me via, okay. Well, like I said, it's a step in a new direction, modernizing, and we constantly see laws that are modernized all over the world. And this is why it's good for public debate. What's to come out of it? I guess you'll have to tune in to the to the parliamentary proceedings and hear the debate around it and follow it closely. But let's see. Let's see. So if you want to weigh in more on this, I'd like to hear from you, and especially if you're from, whether or not you're from the financial industry, what's your take on this bill? 345-936-8255 to join in on the conversation. I'd really like your feedback on this. I just presented the bill here. I may have to exit a little earlier this evening because of a commitment, but yeah. But I'm hoping that you were able to actually get some. I got it. Sorry, some of the commenter. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that you guys can weigh in on this, to be honest with you. And the lines are open until, yep. Oh, wow. It's 20 minutes. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up shortly. Shaka Zulu say, no unbanked, as in more locals find themselves sidelined by the banking system, not wanting to accommodate them with simple bank accounts for day-to-day. Oh, okay. That's what you mean. Is it because they're not making the due diligence requirements with simple bank accounts for day-to-day? Oh, really? I know that it's quite, you have Shaka Zulu. I know you have to provide a lot of information. And it's even more complicated if you're unemployed, to open an account if you're unemployed. Worse if you're a business. A trading as a sole trader business is one thing, but even a limited liability company, it is like a zoo out there. So maybe that's something, again, as we modernize these laws, that our powers that be can actually engage in certain conversations with the lead, with the people in the financial industry to bring this. But I have heard this, Shaka Zulu, by a number of people. I've been subjected to it as well, to be honest. You don't want to be a PEP. Serving as political office, in a political office, everything. And that's going to be over me for a number of years, even after I'm no longer in political office. You don't want to ever be a PEP. And that didn't just stop at me. That extended to my kids, to my husband, to my family member, even my brother, my two brothers. Yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't stop just at me. You don't want to be a PEP, Shaka Zulu. Trust me. And that's forgiving of service. That's what I walk away with. All eyes are on you. Everything is questioned, double questioned, check, cross check, confirm, and some. And it still hovers over me to the second. Yeah, to the second. Tartarian is asking, please invite Minister J.E. Banks, aka Superman, because we need to know, we need to whatever, talk about the AI homes. Boxable is building them in Florida for under 30,000 once you have the land. You mean like the container homes, or those ones that are come and you can just pop them up, and once you have the, I saw Tartarian, I saw something on those, but yes, it would be a good conversation to actually have. But now they're actually in the drafting stage of doing a law for housing that makes it more permanent housing and not transitional. Maybe that's a part of the plan. Interesting. I will send out an invite. I know he's very busy right now as he's dealing with the agriculture festivities, but yeah, it would be worth the conversation for him to have that. I will definitely send out the invite, Tartarian, to hear exactly what's in the plans. But I know for sure he's a busy man. He doesn't stop. He's a workaholic. And if it is something worth trying, as long as it's going to give better response for our people and give people quicker and safer housing, he has the appetite for it to try it. Something better than nothing. Denver says to that comment, it's so much more difficult for anyone to open a bank account in the Cayman Islands. It's hard to comprehend by the average person. For true. Denver, for true. It is a lot. It's a lot. And like I said, worse if you're unemployed. And if you're employed, the income coming to your account, if it's in excess of what your salary is, you have to declare source of funds for everything. And this is why, if you may have heard me say, you got the regulated, the semi-regulated, and the under-regulated. We really don't know what's in circulation out there for the very same reason. Maybe some people are turned off at even going to the bank because of how difficult it is to actually open an account. I don't know. I don't know. But they must know why the regulatory framework is there and know your customer and all of the information that you have to provide. And Denver is answering, yes, Tartarian. He is a Superman. Kudos to Minister, and that's for clarity, Minister J.E. Banks, who I hold high in our government. Yes, yes, yes. He is definitely a workaholic. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm going to skedaddle a little bit earlier this evening. And before I leave, people shouldn't think that this shouldn't matter to them. I don't want anyone taking this for granted or hoping that this was a waste of time for me to even hear her out. I hope you didn't go away with that one day you would actually see the importance of understanding what this legislation is, right? And what it means. Because I feel every Caymanian here, every resident, every person living in the Cayman Islands should care with any bill, any piece of legislation, because some way, somehow, it's going to impact you. It's so crazy for if you have to say a CI account and want to open a US account, it is just as difficult as the first one, which they already have all of your, yeah, it's true. It's true. You'd have to ask the banks for their policies and procedure. And plenty of times it says, oh, that's because SEMA wants this, SEMA wants that. Sometimes from reliable source, it is the personal bank's policies why certain things are being asked. Not everything is always SEMA. So, but a financial institution can actually make their own rules and policies as long as it's in compliance with the regulatory laws that governs how they function. And sometimes to make sure that they're functioning in accordance to law, including additional seatbelts, they may ask for additional information. Maybe that's the case. Not speaking on behalf of any financial institution. Shaka Zulu say, you see, that's not fair to the Cayman, to the Caymanian. Caymanians built that industry when you didn't need a job to be accommodated by a bank giving a simple account. Now that the industry is mature, they sideline the same locals that helped build the industry. Yeah. But you see, not everybody, Shaka Zulu, is in circulation is like those persons who built that industry either. You have a lot of persons that are in nefarious activities, and everybody right now is being painted with one brush. And unfortunately, you're going to have not everybody follow the rules. It's unfortunately how society is. I put the link up there, Andrew. There's a link that I shared with you guys. I will actually do it again for you. I will actually copy it and put it again. I'll share the link, but I shared the link. You will own nothing and you will be happy. You will own nothing and you will be happy, as commented by Danny. To Andrew, see the link there again? I posted the link again for you guys. Hopefully you'll see that on the website page. And if it's anything, I'll post it. For some reason, it's not coming up on the Mar Road feed. Yeah. Oh, you see it? If you see it, then good. All right. If it's anything, what I'll do a separate link on the Mar Road WhatsApp channel so that nobody misses it, just in case, because I'm seeing me posting it on the Cayman Mar Road page is coming up as an error. Okay. So I'll just share it shortly. But I know for sure it's on the Sabrina Speaks Facebook community activist page and the YouTube channel as well. There, I'm seeing it come through. They roll out digital ID and say it will not be mandatory. But what will happen? They will allow businesses require it, thus making it mandatory by default. Time will tell. You have other people that share the same sentiments, my love. You have everybody that share the same sentiments. So I feel, and as I close and wind up today's episode of Sabrina Speak, this should matter to everyone. And even if you never touch a mutual fund in your life, you may ask, well, why should it matter if I never touch it? It matters because of one key thing. Cayman's financial industry pays for a huge part of our public services, including our schools, them very roads that Minister J is doing such a good job on, our healthcare that we realize at the rate things are going will probably not sustainable, and also social programs, just to name a few. And when we keep our financial laws strong and up to date, as we're seeing being proposed here, what we're actually doing is that we're protecting the industry that supports, that is one of the key pillars of our economy. And it's also about transparency as well, because when we understand what our lawmakers are about to debate and possibly pass, we can become, as I've said here before, more informed citizens. And we can hold our leaders accountable. And we can also participate in discussions that shape our future. This is why this bill is out now for public consultation. Shaka Zulu. Stupid leaders is what it comes down to. How can they prioritize conforming with international laws that expense of disenfranchising the locals? Prime Minister Mia Mottley spoke on that exact point. If you listen to that woman. Danny, where are you going with this Mark of the Beast? I need you to do why don't you just do a little episode on all of these things? And like I told you, I wanted to take you up on this conversation, but I will not take it up without guests. Guests from your side, meaning civil persons like yourself who are learned, investigated, look at it from all angles, and also from the ministerial side as well. Yeah, I'm not going there unless I have guests. I'm not going there so that we can have good representation from all sides. But again, thank you for your contribution. But finally, digital assets are becoming a part of our everyday life, whether or not we like the pace, whether or not we're embracing of it, because we're seeing it from online banking to digital IDs to even cryptocurrency. And understanding the basic now helps all of us to prepare for the world that our children, some may say fortunate, some may say unfortunately, will inherit. So even if this bill may feel, like it's far from your day-to-day life, Somebody else will have to deal with that. It's really part of the bigger picture of Cayman stability, our reputation, and definitely our future. And some way, somehow, it will impact all of us. It has been my pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks right here on cmrtv.com. I hope that there have been some nuggets that you're able to take away in understanding, and I hope that I was able to put some sort of clarity to this bill in layman's terms as best as I can as to what is being presented. Please note that this bill is right now in public consultation and your feedback is welcome. You can always reach out to your MPs to find out more on this. Should you have any questions, queries, concerns, or even require further explanation, that's why it's out for public consultation right now. Andrew, final comment. Prime Minister Motley have the balls, not physical, but literally more than her rivals. She got a lot of everything when she did a clean sweep, and kaboom to her. Again, thank you all for joining me. And until tomorrow, please be safe on the roads. And it's been a pleasure. Love you lots. God bless. Have a good evening.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.